big hello and a very warm welcome to a brand equity special with me, Sonali Krishna. Sunday morning, the 15th of April, was a bit of a shocker for most of the advertising and marketing world as Martin Sorrell, WPP's founder and long-standing chief, decided to clock out. Sorrell had been in the midst of an unspecified investigation about personal misconduct and misuse of company assets. He has denied the allegations, and the WPP board has clarified by issuing a public statement which reads, and I quote, Sir Martin Sorrell has stepped down as Chief Executive Officer of WPP with immediate effect. The previously announced investigation into an allegation of misconduct against Sir Martin Sorrell has concluded. The allegations did not involve amounts that are material. Sir Martin will be treated as having retired. Now, for a man who has single-handedly been responsible for the creation of this empire called WPP, the personal misconduct allegations, one would think, were just a tad too much to fathom. His departure after 33 years at the helm of the world's largest advertising business leaves WPP seeking new leadership at a very pivotal time for the industry. One can safely say that he was the statesman of sorts for all the advertising world, not just WPP. And as a holding company CEO of an ad shop, Sorrell had built so much credibility that he was the only CEO who was a regular at Davos, who was constantly rubbing shoulders with state heads and had one-on-one equations with global CEOs as well as tech giants, and had the gumption to take them on too when required. And let's not forget his departure after 33 years at the helm of the world's largest advertising business leaves WPP a bit fragile. For the uninitiated, Sorrell owns about 2% of the company that he built from a cash shell into a global marketing powerhouse. So the advertising oracle has left us. What will be the industry impact? To deliberate on just that, I'm joined by four very distinguished gentlemen. I have Sam Balsara from Madison, the founder and the chairman of Madison Communication, and also Martin Sorrell's long-standing friend. Welcome, Sam. Ashish Bhasin from Dentsu. I'd like to call him the rival camp. Lloyd Matthias, a long-standing marketing career and has been, a participant and an observer of this advertising world. And Santosh Desai, former advertising world and now, of course, social commentator and brand expert. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. I'm going to start first with you, Sam, because I think, you know him personally, you know him as competition, and you know him as, a partner with Mediacom. Give me your first views on, Sunday morning when you heard the news that he's actually quit. I mean, this is most unexpected behavior if anyone knows Martin Sorrell. We know him as a fighter, as somebody who's, cannot be put down. So what were your first thoughts and how do you see this panning out?
Well, Sonali, I agree with you. I think for a Sunday morning, it was a bit much to digest. I was personally surprised. And my first reaction was, strange indeed are the ways of the new corporate world. And one can never be sure of anything in today's new world, the way boards function and the way boards think. I personally feel, having read the note, that when the note itself says that the investigation has concluded and there was, it did not involve anything of material significance to WPP, I cannot understand why a man who had, as you rightly said, single-handedly built WPP and who was the face of WPP, and also to some extent the industry, who did not fight shy of speaking his mind about anything, who had personal relationships with global CEOs, had to sort of depart in this questionable manner. I think he should have been given a hero's send-off, not just by WPP but the entire advertising industry. But knowing him, I doubt, even if at the age of 73, and having recently become a father, he's going to hang his boots or enjoy family life or enjoy the wealth that he has amassed. I think that's not him. If I know him, somebody who's worked 24/7 with his mind buzzing all the time with challenges, clients, problems, competition, I don't think he's going to stand still and take it easy. What he's going to do, of course, I don't know. I'm not privy to any details. I know only as much as you know. But these are my initial thoughts.
You know, Sam, I completely agree with you. He definitely, is not a man who's going to go down quietly. That is for sure. Having said that, that's exactly what I want to get into. I want to get into the impact. We've lost, I mean, WPP has lost this brilliant mind at the helm. As an industry, I think we've lost a statement of sorts. But I want to bring this to you, Lloyd, and give me your views on this. Before I get into, you know, the fact that Martin Sorrell is not going to give up and he does not have a non-compete, and hence I think it's, you know, look out, WPP, if at all. Before I come to that, you know, Lloyd, what is your view in terms of, you know, industry shake-ups, client movement, you know, brass tacks, what will happen to the business, not just in India, I mean, India is a small part of it, but really globally?
Sonali, I think, you know, Martin Sorrell's exit is obviously, you know, pretty huge in the world of marketing services and advertising. But I think immediate impact in terms of shake-up is not going to be very significant. Because I think for a lot of businesses, it will be business as usual. You know, Group M and all the other WPP creative agencies in India are huge, you know, and have some of the largest clients. So I don't think there's going to be an immediate short-term impact. Having said which, I think, you know, his astute mind and his leadership of the group for 32 years, I think there is going to be, you know, some reverberations that are going to be felt in the near future. But most significantly, I think the issue is larger. It's really about consulting companies that today are in effect trying to be full solution providers, not just problem solving, you know, by pointing out what's wrong, but by actually working through the entire creative and media services route. And I think that, in a sense, has some impact on what transpired, you know, in the last week and, you know, hopefully in the last few months. The whole question about the models of traditional creative and media agencies and the fact that consulting companies are actually beginning to look at this space, you know, as something that they could, well, this need they could really fulfill for clients. I think that's the impact that really needs to be observed over the next few months and years ahead.
Fair point. I've got, you know, in India at least, one of WPP's biggest rivals, Ashish Basin, who's just joined us. Welcome, Ashish, on the show. I've been waiting with bated breath for you to join the show. Is it, you know, and he's just got off a flight, so thank you very much for taking time out and joining us from your car. Really appreciate it. But tell me, is it advantage non-WPP companies now that you have, you know, Martin Sorrell, who is really the god of everything advertising, who has decided to quit?
Sonali, when somebody of that stature leaves, obviously there is a shakeout, there is change. Now, it really depends on how that organization is able to handle change. Sometimes change is good and sometimes it can really cause huge issues. Certainly, I mean, it's an internal issue of WPP, but certainly I can tell you this for sure, that business is not going to be as usual for them unless they're quickly able to find some leadership to fill in those shoes, and those are very, very big boots for anyone to fill.
Well, Ashish, but in terms of just sheer business impact for WPP, do you think that will we see some business impact in your opinion? I mean, you had the India operations for Dentsu. Will you go all out now, trying to get clients, given that, you know, they're currently in a fragile position, so to speak? People are a bit shaken up even within WPP. Will you go all out?
Look, I don't think there is going to be any short-term impact on any move like this, because WPP is a huge organization and has hundreds and thousands of employees and good leaders on top. Whether we will go all out, of course, we would go all out on any day, whether Martin Sorrell was here or not. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years, and that's our job, and we will continue to do that. But certainly, I mean, clients would need their clients would need reassuring. Putting myself in their shoes, their employees would need reassuring, because particularly senior managers they work for manager. People work for people, right? So it's going to make a complete change in that sense. If as my competitors I do spot an opportunity, why not? Obviously I will, but then we would do that in any case. I don't think an organization as deep and wide as WPP will have an immediate knee-jerk impact, but over a period of time, if this change is not handled well, like I said, it could certainly cause issues for them. But every change is an opportunity as well.
Right. Let me come to you, Santosh, who's you're not a vested party and can like distance yourself and give us your view of how you see this. Give me a sense of how you've seen this entire drama play out, right from the allegations to the fact that, let's not forget, WPP has had the most horrid 18 months when it comes to results and, of course, its share prices. Do you think what transpired, last morning is something that is a new normal in the global corporate world as we see it today? Or do you think, this is just a stepping stone for larger issues that we will have to tackle in the space that we operate in?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the specifics of what happened at WPP, because obviously one is not privy to it. But I think it is tempting to think of this as, as some sort of a much larger shift that we are beginning to see in advertising, and in some senses, Martin Sorrell himself was responsible for one huge shift that took place when he took control. Advertising moved from being a creative-led, boutique kind of business to being a really serious business, much more profit-focused, much more interested in scale. He changed the face of advertising by taking it seriously as a business, with a whole lot of attendant implications. But that is what Martin Sorrell managed to bring about, this huge shift in how advertising conducted itself and was seen. It got a table, seat on the table. You talked about Davos and the rest of it, but that is something, that is the impact that he made. I think his leaving is in some ways again testament to the fact that things have changed. Whether there are standards of transparency and how hair trigger kind of the reaction of corporations has become, or whether it is indeed in advertising itself and what it must respond to. And whether that old mental model of advertising as this conglomerate kind of a business is the right one in the years to come. So I do think that this might turn out to be a much bigger kind of a turning point for the industry than just a very, very influential and an important figure leaving.
Right. Let me take that point forward to you, Sam. Do you see a remodeling and a reshaping of WPP with Sorrell's exit? Do you see a possibility of the entire structure going in for a complete overhaul?
Well, I think definitely there will be some changes, because I think his personality overshadowed everything. I think what he was known for was his aggression, was his persistence of going after what he set his eyes on. And I doubt if any other corporate manager who is suddenly imposed on the system can infuse the same tenacity and persistency and massive global outreach. He had virtually the whole world, implanted in his head of who is doing what, which client is important, who is not, who in which client is important. It was all there in his head. As everybody knows, he used to respond to emails in 5 minutes. Maybe today he took a little longer, but not too much longer, which is really kudos to him. In spite of everything happening in his life, he is still responding to emails very quickly. So I have no doubt that there will be some changes. I don't know whether WPP may decide to kind of break down structures dramatically. I think one thing was very clear, and he had himself started on this journey is to simplify the organization. You know, besides horizontality that he kept talking about, which you know his organization was well equipped to offer to clients, I think one of the pressing needs internally was to simplify the organization. You know, it's no easy task in today's terms to run a global company with some 200 different companies operating in different areas. So I think possibly his successor is going to make a few quick moves in simplifying corporate structures, and that could mean some structural changes in the number of agencies and the number of agency brands that are operating in India. Obviously, they would look at their key markets very, very closely, and India being one of their key markets, I think they would be a lot more careful about altering the structure in India. I think chances are they would move to the less important markets first and test out the new structures.
Fair enough. And coming to my point of, in his farewell note, Martin Sorrell signs off by saying back to the future. We also know for a fact that in his contract there is no non-compete. Let me quickly, if I can ask the gentleman, and I'll start with you, Ashish. What's your bet on Martin Sorrell coming back with a bang? And I think and WPP will have to watch out along with all the other holding agencies. If he doesn't, come back as a CEO of another holding company. What's your bet that he's going to come back with a bang? Ashish.
Look, I'm sure a person of his caliber and his stature will have the capability of coming back with a bang, but I'm also sure that an organization like WPP, which is so huge, would have taken the necessary precautions. It's also not easy to rebuild. This was in a legacy agency era that an organization monolithic like this was built at that stage. I don't think it's going to be that easy for anyone to rebuild it. You should never write off anyone. He's certainly proven to be very brilliant, and I'm sure whatever he does, he'll be very successful in it. But I don't think it's going to be that easy in 2018 to try and build a legacy agency system when the whole world's tide is against that. So I think WPP will have many more problems to worry about than him coming as a CEO of another company.
Santosh?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that, there's no saying what he might do, but I think it's the automatic assumption that someone like him would be able to, build anything from scratch is perhaps difficult. That being said, he's a man of enormous drive and a great amount of hunger. So I think to rule anything out would be I think unwise.
Let me get your take, Lloyd, on how do you see this panning out after his exit? Is it advantage the consulting guys who are anyway coming after this industry with their big fangs open?
Sonali, I think the WPP board will use this whole transition phenomena to actually re-examine their whole business model. Ought WPP to be moving beyond traditional marketing services? As Santosh pointed out, really that whole marketing services business that Martin Sorrell kind of stitched together, bringing creative and media agencies under one umbrella and providing a full marketing solutions. I think the board might use this point of inflection to actually look at the next stage of the evolution of WPP, and indeed, that would work for marketing service agencies across the board. Should they, in fact, be getting into larger consulting, partnerships with big companies? And I think, therefore, the choice of the next leader, the person who's going to succeed Sir Martin, will really have to actually chart that out. And I expect that will be something that the board and the team will actually look at over the next few months.
Let me give you the last word, Sam, in terms of an 18-month miserable run. A lot of people within that board and within the system have blamed Martin Sorrell for the bad phase. However, when you look at it from a 33 career standpoint, I think he's proven himself more than anybody else one would know in this industry. Would you be in agreement with that? And what would you attribute, the bad run that WPP has had in the last 18 months, whether it be in terms of results or it be in terms of, the steep drop in share pricing?
Well, I think what happened in the last year was, I don't think entirely, his doing. I think it was a lot of circumstances at play, and I think he was in full form during that time. I think to make him alone personally responsible for the drop in performance over 1 year, I think is being unfair to him. My second point to your earlier question, I would say anybody who underestimates Sir Martin does so at his own peril. I think he still has tremendous drive, tremendous aggression. I will not venture to say what he's likely to do, but he's definitely not going to sit still.
You say that you will not venture a guess, but if I force you to venture a guess, Sam, what would it be? What would you bet on?
I think he will sort of muddy his hands in more or less the same pot. It may have a different face, it may have a different look, but this is something that he's done for 33 years. So he obviously, he's not going to go into aviation or road building. So it'll clearly be in the communications area.
So would you say beware? Would you say beware WPP and beware all other conglomerates? Because the story with Martin Sorrell is not over yet.
Oh, that I would say 100%, but I don't think any of the global networks, including WPP, need me to say beware. I'm sure they're all fully aware of everything. Who am I to tell them beware?
Well, it has been quite a shocking 2 days. I think the industry at large is still digesting what we heard, last morning. And having said that, I think a lot more will be clear as days progress. But having said that, we have to accept that we have lost temporarily, at least we hope, the oracle of the advertising world, and it is indeed a very sad and unceremonious way to leave for a man who's built single-handedly this grand empire called WPP. On that note, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on ET Now.